What's going on, guys, and welcome to my first 2025 NHL Mock Draft. I decided to go on Tankathon and actually sim the lottery for you guys. As you can see there, Chicago held on to the first overall pick. The Mighty Ducks, though, actually jumped up 4 spots, picking number 2. Then have the Sharks at 3, Preds at 4, and so on. So, I'm going to get right to this mock draft here, guys. I'm not going to overthink it. I feel like Chicago shouldn't either. Take the guy that's been the consensus number 1 pick all year. Take James Hagens. I feel like with him and Bedard as your future 1-2C, you're looking at like a Crosby Malkin-esque 1-2C in the future. That's like, you know, a really good core to build around. You know, that'll really set them up for the future. So looking at James Hagens' elite prospect page here, guys, you can see most people have him ranked 1. There's some 2s there. Craig Button just came out and ranked him number 4. I think that had to be for clicks. There is one other scout, though, that has him at 4. I don't really get that one, like, especially if you're ranking Martone above him. They're both at the same World Junior Tournament. Hagens looked a lot better. This year, too, he's playing already at the college level at 17, averaging over a point per game. World Juniors, he was over a point per game. I think he's like the most skilled forward in the draft. You can see 102 points last year with the under-18 U.S. development program. Again, I just don't think you should overthink this one. Take the guy who's been the consensus number 1 all year. It seems like a no-brainer to me. And now next year, guys, number 2 is the Anaheim Ducks. I'm not gonna lie, this was kind of like a 50-50 for me. Either Porter Martone or Mattew Schaefer. I feel like they could probably use, you know, both forward and defenseman equally. I just feel like the Ducks seem to be building that kind of power forward team. They traded for Cutter Gauthier. They drafted back at Seneca. Traded for Trouba. I think they like, you know, those big boys. So Porter Martone's the best power forward in the draft. Gonna probably go top 3, maybe could slip to 4. But Martone at 2 makes a lot of sense. Captain there for the Brampton Steelheads. This year he's popping off in the OHL, averaging over 2 points a game. Again, World Junior was pretty quiet. He had 1 goal in 3 games, but definitely a very good player. I think, you know, if you add him to the mix with Seneca, with Carlson, with Gauthier, Terry, Zegras if he stays. Defensively, they're already pretty solid with Mintyukov, Zellweger, Jackson Lacombe, I think, you know, proving himself right now, but they should be a good team in the future. You got Luke Dossel emerging as well. I think the Ducks should be pretty happy there with that Martone pick. Now, I just mentioned his name. I think the Sharks here definitely take Mattew Schaefer. Say the Sharks end up, you know, staying at the number 2 pick. I think they would definitely go Schaefer over Martone, and that's just because he's the best defenseman available in the draft, and the Sharks need defense more than anything. Obviously, I'm a big Jake Wallman fan, a little bit salty they let me trade him there, but Jake Wallman is your number 1. You know, you definitely can get better. They drafted Sam Dickinson last year. You add Schaefer into the mix with Celebrini, Smith, Eklund up front. I think this is going to be a really good Sharks core. And now Schaefer's actually got very similar rankings to James Hagens. You can see he's got some 1s, not as many as Hagens. A lot of 2s, a lot of 3s, a few 4s. Again, the best defenseman in the draft class. Going to be very interesting to see what happens. This year, he's actually averaging over a point per game with the Erie Otters. Never really known for being much of a scorer. Like last year at 16, he only had 17 and 56, but playing a lot more offensively this year. Point per game at World Juniors. I think for me, you know, very good two-way defenseman who can also score. He's also a really good skater too. Left-handed shot, 6'2". So for me, I probably look at him kind of like a Miro Heiskanen type player, at which case, you know, getting him number 3, I think Sharks would be very happy. And our next year, guys, number 4, we have the Nashville Predators. Somehow find themselves picking the top 5 after signing Stamkos, Marchessault, Brady Shea. Doesn't make a ton of sense, but they luck out here and get Michael Misa at number 4. Obviously, he was actually the consensus number 1 a couple years ago before James Hagens kind of came onto the scene. I think Michael Misa is a very good player. Of everyone, I think, in this draft, he's probably one of the guys I've actually seen play the most. I'm a Spitfire season ticket holder. Saginaw plays them all the time, and he's actually been, you know, playing in the OHL since he was 15. Very, very good player. I think Michael Misa, honestly, is so solid. At 15, he was over a point per game. And you can see this year he's become more of a goal scorer. 72 points there with 35 goals. Honestly, I'm so impressed with him. Under 17 was close to a point per game. Definitely, I think, should have made Canada's World Junior team. I don't really know why they left this guy off, but when I look at him, you know, he's a guy that can score, really good playmaker as well. He's been the guy since he was young. I think Nashville should be very, very happy here. Future 1C. I mean, honestly, in my personal opinion, I probably would go Misa over Martone. I think a lot of times, you know, scouts in that kind of look at the size of players, especially when they're looking in junior, and kind of overvalue that. Misa's still good size, 6'1". He's not like, you know, Martone, though, who's 6'3". I personally think, you know, Misa's a better player, but based on kind of everything I'm seeing, Martone's going to go before him. Again, though, Nashville, I think, going to be very, very happy with him at number 4. And now next year, guys, we have the Buffalo Sabres back in the top 5. And with the 5th pick here, they get Anton Frondell, who actually thinks a very solid pick at 5. Probably the best two-way player in the draft. He's a centerman who honestly could end up being like the Buffalo Sabres' future 1C. Maybe move Tage Thompson to the wing. We'll see if Dylan Cousins sticks around. You look at his draft rankings here. Mostly in that like 3 to 8 range. There's a couple there that have number 2, Craig Button, but I don't know if we can trust that. Bob McKenzie is from the beginning of the season. This one here is just EU skaters, which actually is really surprising. I'm curious who they actually ranked above him. They actually have Victor Eklund as the number 1 EU skater. Okay, interesting. But again, guys, like I was saying, I think the Buffalo Sabres here get a prototypical 1C. He's a guy that can play offense, can play defense, maybe like, you know, a lower end version of Nico Hischier. I feel like if, you know, he ends up being as good as Hischier, Buffalo is laughing with, you know, picking him at number 5. Hischier, of course, was a first overall pick. So right now, if you look at his stats, under 18 Sweden team, over point per game. Under 20 was also point per game. Playing in the men's league right now, he's got 6 points in 14 games. Pretty impressive, I think. It's not the SHL, it's the second league, but still, like, you're playing against men as a 17-year-old. I think that's really impressive. Pretty good size there, 6 feet. And like I said, probably the best two-way forward in this draft. Has some skill, has size. I don't really know what else the Buffalo Sabres could want. And now next year, guys, number 6 with the Seattle Kraken. For me, I feel like the thing the Kraken need most is some skilled players up front, some guys that can create players. So the most skilled player left, in my opinion, would be Caleb Denoyer. That's who I have them taking. Probably a little bit early here at 6. Most people have him going like, you know, 8 to 12, but I think the Kraken need, you know, some creative players up front. Because of the expansion draft and how it works, they got a bunch of, like, you know, decent middle 6 players. Some guys have stepped up, you know, like a Jared McCann, plus, you know, pretty well in the draft, getting Matty Beniers. Shane Wright hopefully becomes a player for them. Good signings. Brandon Montour, Vincent Dunn on the back end are fine. Chandler Stevenson, not so much of a good signing, but I think Caleb Denoyer here, like I said, most skilled player. I honestly think could be the future 1C of the Seattle Kraken. Obviously, Matty Beniers, kind of more of an all-around player. Denoyer, like I said, has that higher offensive upside. He's also good size, too, like 6'2", a little underweight at 172, but definitely a lot easier to put on pounds than it is to put on inches. Like, you can't grow, but you can always get bigger. I look at his rankings, like I was saying, anywhere from number 6, so Craig Button has him going where I do. I don't know if I like that. Another, you know, scout has him at 6, and then all the way down to as low as 15, actually 19 there by some, but again, you don't really know when these rankings are from. If they're from the beginning of the year, obviously they're not going to be as accurate. Now this year in the queue, 56 points, 34 games, he's crushing it. Under 18 is the point per game. Even last year as a 16-year-old was close to point per game there, playing with Moncton. Like I said, centerman, tons of skill, tons of creativity. I think, you know, definitely Caleb Denoyer here should be an awesome pick for the Kraken. And now next year, guys, are the New York Islanders, and I feel like Lou Lamoriello is going to love this pick. At number 7, I have them taking Roger McQueen. Reason being, Lou's an old-school guy, and Roger McQueen here, 6'5", 192 pounds, prototypical power forward center. Probably like the second best power forward in the draft behind Porter Martone, but he plays the center position, which probably makes him, you know, even higher valued in Lou's mind. I think, you know, they could probably build around him, especially if they lose Brock Nelson, another, you know, power forward center. Maybe Roger McQueen could be that. I think probably could be even better than that in the future. Looking at his rankings here, anywhere from 5 all the way to 13. So, you know, 6, 7, 8. They're getting him here at 7. I think it's good value. Right now for the Brandon Wheat Kings, he's got 11 points in 8 games, was dealing with an injury, but over point per game. The year before was about a point per game. Same with the playoffs there. Now, he's kind of overage. As you can see, he's played 3 seasons already because he's got that October 2nd birthday, so he's like one of the older players in this draft. I don't know, you know, how much it'll affect his rankings or not. He is still a very good player, and like I said, I think, you know, he's the kind of guy that Lou's going to love, that old school guy, big power forward center. Should be a solid pick either way for the Islanders. Obviously, they're in a position where they just have to take the best player available, and I think for them, that's Victor Eklund. We just saw how some scouts actually have him as the number 1 EU skater, even above Anton Frundell. I'm not so sure about that, but he is definitely, you know, a skilled player. He's a left winger that shoots right, so he could probably play either side. There's a little quote here that says he plays with good intensity and brings to the ice an encouraging mix of drive and skill. I was going to say he's a skilled player, but also supposed to have a pretty good two-way game. I look at his rankings here. There's one that's kind of an outlier there at 18. Other than that, though, plus Bob McKenzie's 13. That's beginning of the year. Everyone else has him in the top 10. And I should mention, too, similar to Frondell, playing in the second Swedish men's league here, has 15 points in 25 games. I think that's quite impressive. Under 20 team, 11 points in 14 games. That's also, you know, pretty good at the World Juniors as an 18-year-old. Like I said, I think at this point, best player available. That's definitely what Pittsburgh needs. They just got to start adding prospects to that cupboard, try and, you know, build a future young core here. Probably going to be in on like Landon DuPont, say in 2027. Right now, though, you guys just start building while you can. And I think, like I said, Eklund gives them the best player at this spot. And now next up here, guys, we got the Philadelphia Flyers. I was trying to decide for them, like, do they have a positional need? Are they trying to take the best player available? Honestly, though, I think the best player available probably does fit their need the most, and that's Logan Hensler here. I think the best defenseman still available at this point in the draft. He's actually playing for Wisconsin right now. Like Roger McQueen, one of the older players in the draft, October 14th birthday. I look at his rankings. I mean, especially once you get to the middle of the first round, it's all over the place. So anywhere from 7 to 23. I mean, at 9, it's pretty good. 6'2", right-handed defenseman. Two-way guy, can put up some points. He's got 7 points right now. as a young, freshman here playing for Wisconsin. Under 20 team was also on there. He had a point in 7 games. Under 18, obviously a bit more impressive. 6 points in 7 games, so actually close to 2 point per game. I think, again, best defenseman available, probably best player available at this spot as well. And I think, looking at the Flyers, they need defense, so this should be a good pick for them. And now next up, guys, we got the Utah Hockey Club. Another team, wasn't really sure which direction they would go. I think they probably go defense as well and take Jackson Smith. I was looking at kind of like their prospect group, even just like the core of their team, and they really have a solid young core there with Logan Cooley, Dylan Gunther, Clayton Keller's still pretty young, Barrett Hayton. Defensively, though, most of those guys are a lot older. They even got, Tidja Ginla last year coming up. Defensively, I don't really see it. I think they'd want to add, to that defensive core, some young guys to help grow with the young forward group. I think, too, when you look at Jackson Smith, some people think he's better than Hensler. I think until recently, though, that wasn't even a debate. So I think we'll see Hensler go off the board first. Again, look at his rankings. A lot of people have him at 9. Some people as low as 30, even 42. Again, those are probably older rankings, though. Right now, playing for the Tri-City Americans WHL. 29 points, 38 games, I think is quite impressive. Even last year, he actually had the same amount of points in double amount of games. So you can see definitely taking a big step. Big size, 6'3", left-handed shot. I think, Utah here, if they want defense, he's the best guy available. And now next up, guys, at number 11, we've got the New York Rangers. Definitely not a team I expected to be drafting almost in the top 10 this year. So for me, I'm going to probably chalk up this year to a fluke. I think that, the Rangers probably will chalk it up to a fluke as well. In which case, you go high risk, high reward. You lucked into this spot. You might as well take a chance. I have them taking Ivan Ryabkin here. Reason being, I think he is the guy that has the highest ceiling of the players available. And the fact he's Russian shouldn't really affect them. They've already got Panarin and Shesterkin on the team. I'm sure he'd come over to play for them. And even if it takes them a couple years, obviously they're still going to be a very good team for the next couple years. They really don't have to worry about, rushing him over or anything like that. So I feel like he could be the perfect fit here for the New York Rangers. Looking at his rankings, like I said, once you get to this spot, all over the place, anywhere from 6 to 45. I mean, a huge range. You can see a little quote here. Can immediately spot openings and snap hard, accurate passes, set up scoring chances, often showing some creativity to do that. So, again, a really good offensive player here, which is why I think he's got that high ceiling. The only player I don't think, has a picture on the Elite Prospects page. Looking at his stats here. So, playing in the MHL, which is like the league below the KHL, still putting up close to 2 point per game. He's also got quite a bit of penalties, which maybe, clean that up a bit. Played the USHL a bit there, 3 points in 2 games. So I think that already shows willing to come, over to North America. Like I said, should be a great pick, I think, for the Rangers. And now next, you guys, we have the St. Louis Blues, who I think are going to get a very nice pick here in Malcolm Spence. He's another guy I've actually got to see a lot as he plays on the Erie Otters with Matthew Schaefer. Again, anyone that's been in the OHL for a couple years, I've seen them play. He's a guy definitely, has that tenacity to his game, doesn't mind going to the front of the net. Also, pretty good scoring touch. We look at his stats here. Yeah, this year he's got 43 points, 36 games, 17 goals. Last year as a 17-year-old, he had 19. Year before that, 16. Another guy who's like one of the older players in the draft. September 22nd birthday. So, you can't get much older than that. But like I said, he's been pretty impressive so far. Like, 42 points as a rookie. Last year's a point per game. This year's over a point per game, and again, almost has as many goals as he had last season. I think he's definitely a guy I could see playing on Robert Thomas's wing and putting up, quite a bit of points. So St. Louis should be pretty happy if they get him. Good size as well, 6'2". And then again, rankings-wise, once we get into this spot, it's just, a crapshoot. And now next year, guys, number 13, we have my favorite team, the Detroit Red Wings. So I've got them taking Radim Mrtka. Hopefully I said his name right. I'm honestly not too sure. But as a Czech Republic defenseman, actually playing the WHL right now for the Seattle Thunderbirds. Love his size, 6'6". So imagine him and Edmondson on a D pair. I mean, come on. How are you going to get by that? 200 pounds, could probably still add a bit more weight. Right-handed shot as well, something the Red Wings could use. At this spot in the draft, I'm not really seeing anyone jump out to me too much, so I feel like right shot defenseman is something we definitely need, and especially when he's got that size. He's also got a bit of a scoring touch too. Look at this down here, guys. He's got a point per game right now, playing the WHL. Now, he has missed some games to injury, but still very impressive. Again, I feel like this could honestly be a really nice pick here for the Red Wings if they're drafting in this spot. And one more thing I should mention too, guys, about Mrtka is the fact he's actually one of the younger players in the draft. June 2007 birthday, and he's already 6'6", so he's probably not done growing yet. Like, this could imagine like the next Zdeno Chara. Like, he's from Czech, pretty close to Slovakia. I'd love that as a Wings fan. And then next year, guys, number 14, we got the Boston Bruins. Obviously, it's early. I think they probably will end up being in the playoffs, but you never know. Right now it's Ottawa, Columbus in those 2 wildcard spots. I do think, though, if Boston ends up picking pretty high, like a 14, they're going to take best player available, and I think that might be Lyndon Lakovic. He's another player in the WHL, a scoring winger. They got him as a forward, so maybe he does play center sometimes in junior. Looking at his rankings here, he's got as high as 8, and that's actually by Dauber Prospects there, who's, pretty reputable. I think, though, you're looking at him probably in the teens. A big boy, too, as well. 6'4" forward. I'm sure Boston would love that. And looking at Lakovic's stats here, guys, you can see already tied his point total from last season in less than half the games. He's got 39 and 31, 17 goals. So definitely a goal scorer. Like last year at 18, 21. This year you can see like pretty equal goals and assists. Under 17 team, 3.7 games is okay. He was playing as a 16-year-old in WHL. Didn't do too much there, but again, he was a very young 16-year-old because he's got that December 2006 birthday, so he's like already 18. He actually would have been 15 to start this season. So I think he's a guy, you know, probably your best player available at this spot. A good scoring winger, Boston Bruins. I mean, you can't have too many of those. Again, best player available. Their team not expecting to pick this high. Hopefully they don't mess up, you know, picking this spot like they did 10 years ago back in 2015. And next up here, guys, at number 15, we've got the Montreal Canadiens taking Cameron Schmidt. So he's a guy I think some teams would probably wait on. Not the Montreal Canadiens, though, and I'll tell you why. So Cameron Schmidt's a very solid scoring winger. If you look here, guys, right wing, 5'7". So this is why I think a lot of teams would pass on him, but the Montreal Canadiens already have Cole Caulfield. Cole Caulfield was an absolute steal in his draft. Of course, their coach is Martin St. Louis. I think St. Louis is going to say, if this guy's the best player available, I don't care how tall he is. I actually almost like the fact he's smaller. Go out and get him. So you look at his rankings here. I think because of his size, you know, it's definitely mixed between as high as 8, as low as 26. I think at 15, very, very good value. And again, puts up a ton of points. He's got 48 this year in 35 games. The year before that, even as a 16-year-old, he had 58 and 59. So like this dude has been putting up points even with his smaller size, even and younger age. In the WHL, which is kind of like, you know, a kind of harder hitting league. Obviously, a bunch of farm boys out there from the prairies. So I think Cameron Schmidt definitely could hold his own in the NHL, and I think Montreal Canadiens would love to have him. And now next year, guys, number 16, we have the Vancouver Canucks. And actually, wait a minute.
We have a trade to announce.
All right, guys, so as you saw there, we got a trade to announce. I've actually got the Columbus Blue Jackets trading up to the number 16 pick, and reason being, I think they're going to get their goalie of the future in Joshua Ravensbergen. Now, there's a few good goalies in this draft. I feel like the Columbus Blue Jackets are probably the most goalie-needy team in the league. Their current NHL goalies, Inmers, Linkins, and Tarasov, are not that great, and they really don't have any great goalie prospects. Why not get one of the best in the last few years in Ravensbergen? You guys take a look at his stats here. He's in the WHL. He's got awesome size. They're already 6'5", 18 years old. Looking at his rankings here, anywhere as high as 14 all the way down to 39. He's going to be like a mid to late first round pick. Skarov ended up going like mid first round. I feel like a team that needs a goalie, don't let someone else kind of take him from you that doesn't need him as much. Go out and get him. Now this year, guys, in the WHL, he's got 301 goals against, 901 save percentage. Definitely slowed down a little bit. Before that, you can see he had a 246, 907. Playoffs, he was absolutely unreal, though. Like when it mattered most, a 198, 931, playing against tougher competition. Now, I have them taking Ravensbergen. Columbus could also, you know, go out and take Ivan Kovic. I remember when Red Wings, you know, took Kosa before Wallstedt. You know, that was kind of a bit of a surprise. Same thing could happen here. Ravensbergen's kind of been the number one goalie in this draft for the last couple years, but Ivan Kovic's definitely moving up the rankings. So curious to see what happens, but I do think Columbus should be active here and try and get one of those two goalies in the first round of this draft. So that's going to do it, guys, for the first version of my 2025 mock draft. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, leave a thumbs up. Let me know in the comment section what you think about the picks. And as always, thank you guys so much for watching. Have a nice day. Goodbye.